Okay, okay.
Yo, pass me my Biggie shades. We need some Versace in here. Life is better in Biggie's.
Are negative Google reviews hurting your business? Don't let unfair feedback cost you customers. At Webamax, we specialize in removing false, misleading, and damaging reviews so your online reputation stays strong. Our expert team works quickly and legally to clean up your digital presence, helping you rebuild trust. Visit us on the web at www.gowebamax.com. That's GOWEBIMAX.com, or text us for a free quote at 856-840-8343. Don't let bad reviews define you. Get immediate help from Webamax.
This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
This episode is brought to you by Intuit TurboTax. Didn't file with TurboTax last year? That's in the past. Now, Taxes is getting the TurboTax app and filing your own taxes for free if you didn't file with them last year. File by February 18th. All tax forms, all 100% free. Now, this is Taxes. Intuit TurboTax. New filers and filers who didn't use TurboTax last year only must start and file your own taxes in-app by February 18th. Excludes TurboTax Live. Full terms at turbotax.com.
Welcome back to Rams Up, your favorite LA Rams podcast. We are part of the Fans First Sports Network. You can follow us on our YouTube channel as well at LA Rams Up. I'm your host, Mark. I'll be joined occasionally by my football gurus, Paul and Ian. Let's get to it. Hey, what's going on, Ram fans? Episode 654 of Rams Up. Still recovering over here from this news shared by Ian last night. Cooper Kupp on the trading block. Quite a bummer. But man, maybe we should just celebrate the wonderful career he's had with us and wish him the best. But man, it still kind of sucks. Trying to figure out what I will remember most about Cooper Kupp, aside from the work ethic, the attitude. Man, he set the standard for how wide receivers should perform and behave and work at improving their craft, training, the whole thing. Guy understood the game. I'll never forget that little explanation he gave after the one game, how he got open for the touchdown. Quite the wide receiver, quite the player, quite the human being. What will we remember him for? His Triple Crown season? The TD against the Bengals in the Super Bowl? The big catch against the Bucs to set up the game winner? I might go with that clutch catch against the 49ers in the NFC Championship game. I've never seen him so emotional after a catch because he knew he may have just sent the Rams to the Super Bowl, at least took a big step towards that. Cooper Kupp, what a player. Ends up fourth in all-time receiving yards for the Rams behind Isaac, Torrey, and Henry. I don't even need to say their last names. Third in TDs behind Isaac and Torrey, and third in yards per game behind Puka and Torrey. Set the standard for wide receivers in this game. If you don't like a Cooper Kupp, then you probably didn't like Isaac Bruce or Torrey Holt either, and you probably don't like Puka Nacua, and I'd say there's something wrong with you. Cooper, one of the most likable athletes you'll ever come across. You know, I don't think we should encourage kids to necessarily emulate NFL players and Major League Baseball players. Shouldn't look at them as heroes and all that. But if you're looking for an athlete that you can point to and tell your kids, hey, be more like him, it would be Cooper Kupp. Now, I'm wondering what happens with him, and my special assistant put together a list of teams that it made sense for, and I'm going to rank them for you from the least likely destination to the best spot for him to go to. And I'm going to start with the first team he threw out there, and that's the Buffalo Bills. And I'm going to discount them immediately because they have big time cap issues, $16 million over at the moment. And another one I'm going to discount, the Baltimore Ravens. They have $7 million in cap space, and I just don't think that would be ideal for him. Playing for a quarterback like Lamar Jackson would not accentuate the skills that Cooper Kupp brings to a team. Next up, the Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah, I could see that. Patrick Mahomes would probably embrace Cooper Kupp. They have $16 million in cap space, so I'm not sure it would work there. I'm sure Cooper Kupp would love to play there, and he's going to have a say in this, I think. The next team up is the New England Patriots, and they have the most cap space of all these teams, $123 million, and their wide receiving core not looking good. Kendrick Bourne, Jalen Polk, Javon Baker, a couple young guys. I can't imagine Cooper Kupp would be excited to be packing his bags for New England. And next up, and by the way, if you haven't noticed, these are all AFC teams. We discounted all potential NFC destinations. So next up, the LA Chargers, $64 million in cap space. And man, pairing him up with Ladd McConkey would be really exciting. Quentin Johnson, mildly disappointing, had some big games this past year though. And then the speedster, Darius Davis. Now the problem with the Chargers is they play at SoFi on artificial turf, and Cooper Kupp has been pretty vocal about preferring real grass. And if he wants to extend his career, playing at least 8 games a year on that turf would not excite him. But that's kind of offset by the fact that he wouldn't have to uproot his family, stay in SoCal and play for the Chargers. Down to 2 teams that could be destinations for Cooper Kupp. Number 2 on the list, the Pittsburgh Steelers. $37 million in cap space. They could probably make it work. They have George Pickens, who is like the alter ego to Cooper Kupp. That would be interesting. And after that, Lance McCutcheon, remember him? Roman Wilson, Calvin Austin. So for a team that's a perennial playoff team, adding Cooper Kupp would be a big addition. The number 1 team on my list, and I think they are by far the front runners, the Cincinnati Bengals. $46 million in cap space. They have one great receiver, Jamar Chase. T. Higgins on his way out likely. Then they have Jermaine Burton and Charlie Jones. Remember Charlie Jones? We talked about him in the draft last year. Throwing Cooper Kupp into that mix with Joe Burrow, that would be really exciting. And remember, Zach Taylor and him have some familiarity with each other. And Taylor and the Rams, they have a connection. So I'm sure they could work things out if that's what they wanted to do. They're my number 1 destination, a contender. They need a boost, a great quarterback, a coach that knows Cooper Kupp, a coach that knows Sean McVay, and they play on grass. Makes perfect sense to me. Not making a prediction here, but the Bengals make the most sense. Would not be surprised if that happened. But again, so long, Cooper Kupp. We will never forget you. Hey, maybe this will fall apart. The Rams end up keeping him. Don't expect that to happen, but call me a Cooper Kupp fan forever, and best of wishes to him. What else do I have this episode? I'm going to get into my 18 observations, going to be all over the place, talking about our Rams, the NFL, and you know what? We're going to get into a couple of non-football teams as well. I'm going to roll right into my 18 observations, and first thing I got to mention is, man, someone really came at me on the YouTube channel. I just don't understand the social skills of some folks on social media, but that's the world we live in. Really had a problem with me drafting a tight end in the first round. It was Colston Loveland, by the way, who I probably would pass on at this point if I did it again. But, the Rams might end up liking him. And this commenter had an issue with a tight end in the first round period. And gotta tell you, Sean McVay has tried to trade up and draft a tight end in 2 recent drafts, Dalton Kincaid, and then Brock Bowers. So there's that. My second observation, speaking of tight ends, Cameron DeSilva noting that the Rams seem to be interested in UCLA tight end Moliki Matavao. Had contact with him. He's 6'6", 263 pounds, so he's got great size. Senior year, 41 catches for 506 yards and 2 TDs. The original thought is he would go undrafted, but he seems to be climbing up the board of most evaluators. Someone even said he could go in the first round. That is not going to happen. He had 8 catches for 120 yards in the Bruins season finale, by the way, against Fresno State. Has some blocking deficiencies, but a guy to look at for the Rams maybe, 3rd, 4th, 6th round, or if they find a way to get into the 5th round, maybe Moliki Matavo would be their guy. Third item here, Jared Verse lobbying for ex-Florida State teammate defensive back Azarie Thomas, probably butchering that first name, on Twitter, noting that he had the lowest target rate and coverage in college football, 9.6%, better than the esteemed Travis Hunter, who will be for certain a top 3 pick, probably the number 2 overall pick, considered a generational talent. NFL Draft Buzz has Thomas ranked as their 13th best cornerback, and then I see a mock draft just today where he went in the first round, 6'2", 198 pounds. So he's got great size, and he's scheme and position versatile. Could play a little bit of safety if needed. And the one knock on him, relies too much on his physical gifts, needs some work on technique. Hey, you know what? I could live with that. And it does not surprise me that Jared Verse is being vocal in his support of his ex-teammate. Fourth up here, read an article suggesting that because the Rams have had no contact with a specific draft prospect, won't get into the details here, he's probably not on their radar. Let me just say, this is not entirely true. The Rams have drafted such players before. In fact, it can actually be an indication they love the player. They know everything they need to know about him, and they're not going to reveal their interest by interviewing said player. Just a basic smokescreen technique. So, yeah, the Rams will draft guys that they have no contact with. Happens virtually every year, so don't read too much into that.
If this were a Reese's TV ad, you'd be staring at a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup. And sure, my voice is peanut buttery smooth, but still, you need to see the peanut butter cups, right? No? I can really just say Reese's and you'll go get some? Okay, Reese's. 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 Really working, actually. Reese's. Reese's. I'm on to something. Reese's. Reese's. Reese's.
It's perfectly browned, it's melty, it's sweet. It's the s'more you just cooked over the fire at AutoCamp. That's right, Hilton brings you new ways to stay, where you don't just get nightly s'mores. You also get clubhouse happy hours to gather under the stars. All while staying in custom-designed Airstreams, cabins, and tents, and insanely cool outdoor destinations. If AutoCamp sounds like a dream, it sounds like it's time to redeem those Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first, like to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
I think you're on mute.
Workday starting to sound the same?
I think you're on mute.
Find something that sounds better for your career on LinkedIn. With LinkedIn Job Collections, you can browse curated collections by relevant industries and benefits, like flex PTO or hybrid workplaces, so you can find the right job for you. Get started at linkedin.com/jobs. Finding where you fit. LinkedIn knows how.
Observation number 5. It's going to be another year of the Rams losing assistant coaches. Tight ends coach Nick Caley has been hired by the Texans as their new offensive coordinator. And several other guys might be leaving because Liam Cohen, the old Rams OC, is now the head coach of the Jacksonville Jags. And he's interested in bringing over assistant offensive line coach Zach Cromer to be the Jags offensive line coach. And he's interested in bringing offensive assistant and passing game coordinator Nick Scheelhaas as their offensive coordinator, and possibly Aubrey Pleasant, the Rams secondary coach, for the DC position. So once again, Sean McVay could be out there looking at resumes, filling these slots. What's up next? With all that's gone on with Matthew Stafford over the last 2 years, I'm starting to think maybe they should draft Stafford's successor this year. Pro Football Network projects them doing just that, selecting Quinn Ewers in the 3rd round. You know what? I'm really falling in love with Jackson Dart, and I would not have a problem with the Rams using their number 26 overall pick on Jackson Dart, the Ole Miss quarterback. This guy has it all. And hey, if you love a player, just like Jared Verse last year, Braden Fisk as well, just draft him. I have a feeling this could be Stafford's last year. My 7th observation, how many of you tuned in for the Pro Bowl festivities? I just couldn't do it. 8th observation, just a reminder, it is NFL draft and trade clickbait season on the internet. Man, it is crazy, some of these headlines. One of them basically came out and said, Cooper Kupp's been traded. Try to resist clicking on these. Most of them are just someone in their mom's basement suggesting a trade, throwing an idea out there, and the headline, the link, makes it look like it's actually happened, or that's coming from a reliable source, an insider source. And 99% of the time it is not. And it's really tempting. Just a warning. Hey, if you really want, go ahead and click on it. But it just promotes this even more and more. I try not to. My 9th observation, we're halfway there. Ben Rolfe of Pro Football Network ranked every offensive line in the NFL. The Seattle Seahawks came in at number 30. How long have they been trying to fix that unit? It seems like 20 years. They just keep on drafting cornerbacks and safeties. It seems like they've had a bunch of good ones. And this is an offensive line. The Rams registered 9 sacks against them in their 2 games with Seattle. And their pass and run blocking, according to Rolfe, equally bad. The Cardinals, by the way, came in at number 7 and improved as the season progressed. And they were actually the number 1 ranked offensive line, at least by Rolfe's standards, over the last 4 weeks of the season. Worth noting, the Vikings offensive line came in at 10th, and this is a line the Rams got 9 sacks against. The Eagles at 12th surprised me. I've been stating they're the best offensive line in football. Maybe I need to revisit that idea. The Rams came in at number 13 and the 49ers at 14. 10th observation, Jordan Dajani of CBS Sports recently released a list of 1 free agent for each team, and he threw out Kansas City linebacker Nick Bolton. Interesting idea. Remember, Christian Roseboom and Troy Reeder, both free agents. So we'd be going with Omar Spates and Jake Hummel at this point, maybe a draft pick. Bolton's only 25 years old, and he's a solid player. If they don't bring back Roseboom, someone like Bolton, it kind of makes sense. And by the way, you know who else is out there? Ernest Jones. Next up, the Raiders and Pete Carroll hiring Chip Kelly as their OC, and Bobby Kownak of NFL.com had an interesting observation that I'm going to share. Pete Carroll and Jim Harbaugh, remember, old rivals in the Pac-12. I don't think they liked each other. Head coaches for USC and Stanford, respectively. And where was Chip Kelly for part of that time? The coach of the Oregon Ducks. My 12th item here, also from NFL.com, Eric Edholm's mock draft. I'll be sharing these occasionally just to see how other mock drafts are going down. He had Tyler Warren going 5th overall. Maybe this is a Brock Bowers effect. I don't think Warren needs to go that early. I don't think he's the talent that Bowers is. Ashton Gianti went 6th overall. Same thing. going to be a really good running back, but that's a little high for him. Josh Simmons, the Ohio State offensive tackle, some have mocked to the Rams, went 23rd to the Packers. And then he had the Rams taking Donovan Jackson. Now, he's an Ohio State offensive tackle. He was actually a guard. And then when Simmons got hurt, they moved Jackson to that left tackle spot and played really well. So he's clearly a guy that can play multiple positions along the offensive line. And he proved that he could possibly be a serviceable left tackle as well. Still not convinced this is the right spot to take him this high, number 26 overall, but would not be surprised if the Rams went that way. And it all depends on Alaric Jackson and what happens there. Observation number 13, my recent poll on color commentators saw a little bit of pushback on Tom Brady, but hey, as much as Ram fans tend to dislike Tom, he's kind of growing on me. And he had a little thing, it was shared on social media, who is the most difficult defender he ever faced in a Super Bowl. And it was hands down our own Aaron Donald. And he mentioned, he didn't rack up any stats in that game, not much to speak of, but that was because every single play, the goal was to neutralize Aaron Donald as much as possible. If that meant 2 guys, if that meant 3 guys. But then, of course, Brady pointed out, we only scored 13 points because we had to dedicate so many guys to controlling Aaron Donald, freed up other guys to make some plays. So shout out to Tom Brady for giving Aaron Donald a shout out. And by the way, my 14th observation here, USA Today ranking the best Super Bowl teams ever. They have the 1999 St. Louis Rams, winners of Super Bowl 34, as the 8th best. My 15th observation, I haven't done an LA roundabout in quite a while, and these last few items, I'm going to do just that, talk about some other LA teams. Don't get pissy on me. All these things are worth talking about. Like I said last podcast, slow days in the world of the NFL, but there's some other stuff happening that LA sports fans certainly should be aware of. And my 15th item, one of my favorite Dodgers, Kiki Hernandez, according to David Schoenfield, is probably on his way out. The Dodgers have been stocking up on players that have a similar role to Hernandez, mainly, most notably, Hai-Swang Kim, another name I just butchered. So Hernandez is probably on his way out. And you know what? He didn't do himself any favors with that interview. I don't know, man. I love Kiki Hernandez, the baseball player, the vibe he brings, but making sure he was live and then cussing on national television, an F-bomb to boot, didn't like it, didn't care for it, didn't help his cause, I have a feeling. And the 16th thing we have to talk about, Luka coming to the Lakers, crazy. A lot of people thought it was fake. Is it April Fool's Day? No, it isn't. It's Groundhog's Day, or the day before, actually. Luka is a Laker. That is pretty crazy. And the rumors are, maybe it's actually fact, that he's put on a lot of weight, hasn't been taking care of himself, and he's probably going to leave the Mavericks anyways, the thinking is. So the Mavericks just cut their losses. And if the Lakers can round him into shape, it's going to be really interesting. They're going to be a playoff team. Before this trade, they weren't going to win an NBA championship. Maybe they can figure something out. They need a big man now, and maybe by the time I post this, they will have that big man. We'll have to see. And then the 17th observation, I didn't get this, saw another headline on Fox Sports. LeBron will stay with Lakers through trade deadline. Play with Luka. No kidding. And my last observation, a while back, I ranked the top 20 or 25 or 15, I don't remember how it was, the top 15, let's say, sports personalities in Los Angeles. I'm going to take another hack at it as of today. Now, I didn't spend a lot of time on this, so feel free to send me a message if I miss someone. The top 10 sports personalities in LA, and interestingly, I could not identify a single UCLA football or basketball player. Same for USC. I could not identify a King or a Duck or a soccer player. And that's maybe more on me. So if I'm missing someone, please let me know. I don't necessarily have the heartbeat of the LA sports community, but number 10, and he's been a little bit under the radar, but I got to include Mike Trout, one of the greatest talents ever in Major League Baseball. Mike Trout, poor guy, stuck with the Angels all these years. Number 9, going to be going Rams heavy here at the bottom of this list, Cooper Kupp. His productivity slowly tailing off, but he is still one of the more recognizable sports personalities in Los Angeles for sure. And I get it. Unless he's traded to the Chargers, this will be his last appearance on this list. And number 8, his teammate Puka Nacua. Yeah, I still argue that he is probably going to be the key to growing this fan base over the next couple of years. Number 7, the Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford. Hey, you're the quarterback of the best team in town, the best National Football League in the state. Yeah, you get the nod here. And by the way, don't have any Chargers here. Maybe I should. Number 6, the Rams coach Sean McVay, and I'm not including the Dodgers manager Dave Roberts, by the way. I don't think he's of that stature. Sean McVay, one of the brightest minds in sports in the entire country, actually. So he's my number 6 guy. And then we have a run on Dodgers here. Number 5, Freddie Freeman. Thanks to that grand slam, that elevated him, his World Series performance, playoff performance, period. He's my number 5 guy. And number 4, the lovable Mookie Betts. Yeah, he's quite a player and certainly a Dodger fan favorite. Don't have Clayton Kershaw on here, by the way. I think he may have been on it a couple years ago. Don't have him in my top 10. And number 3, Ohtani. That's right. He has become the face of the Dodgers, really. And just consider what might happen if he starts pitching as well and this team makes another World Series run. One of the most popular players in Southern California, for sure. And number 2, I'm going to say Luka. And he has definitely some recency bias, but he's the talk of the town and hasn't played a game yet. Man, I've been talking to some Laker fans, including my special assistant, and he just cannot believe it. Still in disbelief that Luka is a Laker. Maybe I'm jumping the gun putting him at number 2, but I think he is going to take over this town right along Puka. Puka and Luka are going to own this town for the next couple of years, I think. And number 1, I still have LeBron James, one of the greatest players. Well, actually, I'm just going to say it and probably going to upset a lot of you. The greatest basketball player ever, LeBron James. He's my number 1 sports personality as I speak here in early February 2025. There you have it, my top 10 sports personalities in LA. Go ahead, tell me where I'm wrong, and tell me who I missed. That's going to do it for this episode. Remember, you can reach us at ramsuppodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget about our YouTube channel. Our handle is at laramsup.com. Till next time, keep the horns up, stay safe, and have fun out there.